utilize those chairs back there if they're not being occupied. I think that's the best path. I was just making sure. One more thing, Ian. I have those, just so you know, I have reports from your doctor that you provided last week. If it makes a difference with you.
You want to just mark? I think
I
we
have
stipulate
them
to all of
marked
them.
If you already have a mark, that's fine. I just want to make sure you knew I had. Multiple
too.
copies.
I figured we'd mark those joint exhibits.
Okay.
You don't want to go ahead and get them on or wait until you say.
No, you can pick one.
Okay.
Who are we anticipating on there?
Dr. Merritt and Dr. Herinko.
And they're both
Both.
logged in, I can
Okay.
see, yeah.
Fred, do you have a preference as to?
Dr. Herinko first.
Okay.
Enter the passcode and press the pound. Joining the meeting.
Try it again.
Oh,
Oh, somebody else just joined. Judge Ernst just joined. So, yeah. That's one advantage of being small part-time is if I got a big gap in my schedule, I can do a quick turnaround.
we are now on the record in the case entitled "The State of Ohio versus Ruth R. Miller." It's case number 2025 CR 090285. And Ruth Miller is in the courtroom. She's seated at counsel table. Her attorney, Ian Freeman, is also present in the courtroom, seated at counsel table. Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Fred Scott is also here, and he is seated at counsel table as well. We're all here because the hearing that we are about to conduct is one that is provided for by statute under 2945.40. Ms. Miller, I previously found you not guilty by reason of insanity at prior hearing, I believe it was March the 3rd of 2026. And when that occurs, the law provides that you are entitled to this statutory hearing within 10 days. I believe we have complied with that requirement and have scheduled it. The purpose is, I think, clearly spelled out in 2945.40A. It talks about the trial court shall conduct a full hearing to determine whether the person, meaning you, is a person with a mental illness subject to court order, or a person with an intellectual disability subject to institutionalization by court order. And for this hearing, many of the same rights apply that would apply at a criminal trial, in that clearly you're entitled to counsel, and you are certainly been well represented here in this matter by Attorney Freeman. You have the ability to call in witnesses, and if those witnesses would not come in, there's even subpoena powers that would allow for that. But I don't think any of that's necessary today as far as subpoenaing witnesses in. I think everyone's been able to secure the witnesses that they intended to have this hearing. But just to be sure on that point, Ian, has the defense been able to secure the necessary witnesses that they believe that would be needed for this proceeding?
We have, Your Honor, and we anticipate calling in order Dr. Dan Buffington and then Dr. Susan Hatters-Freeman here today live there behind me.
Thank you. At this hearing, I know the state is also prepared to call in witnesses as well. And Dr. Merritt, is it?
Correct.
You would be calling? But before we even hear from either the state's or the defendant's witness in this case, I believe also appearing by way of video is Dr. Herinko. Dr. Herinko, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I just turned on my microphone, so I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine. I'm going to confirm with the other folks in the room to make sure that they can hear you all right. Fred, are you able to hear him okay?
Yes, sir.
And Ian?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm that. I think for everyone's benefit, the order that we will be going in, well, Dr. Herinko, Dr. Merritt, and then however the defense wishes to proceed with their witnesses, will be able to do so as well. And just so the record is clear also, before going out here onto the record, we had a very brief discussion in my chambers regarding having witnesses remain present throughout the proceedings. I think both the state and the defense had asked that if it possible, could their witnesses remain throughout the proceedings, and I'd indicated I have no opposition to that if that's what the parties would like to have done. Fred, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Ian?
That is, Your Honor.
All right. Then with that, I believe we are ready to proceed with our first witness. And Dr. Herinko, just so that you know, if I might have left you out as far as one of those wanting to remain present throughout, you are certainly welcome to remain present if you want, but we're not going to be offended if you log out as well.
I understand.
I'm going to begin with the administration of the oath or affirmation at this time. Thank you. Dr. Herinko, do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please indicate by stating either I swear or I affirm.
I affirm.
All right. I'm going to allow the state to proceed with any question that they would have for Dr. Herinko first, followed by the defense.
Your Honor, at the beginning, at the outset, I just would note for the record that Dr. Herinko had issued a report, a follow-up report for the court. It's, let's see. It is 8 pages in length. It was issued on March 10th after an evaluation on March 10th. It's my understanding we will be jointly admitting that with the parties.
Is that correct, Ian?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And I have a copy here as well that was provided to me.
Where would you like me to, where's the easiest?
Good question.
So that he
Fred.
can see. And
Yeah. Why don't you do this? I think there is a podium that's easily moved to your left. Maybe if you bring it out a little closer to the table and
This podium?
try that one. You definitely, moving the Nomad would be a challenge.
Yeah,
So,
oh, no, it's not a problem.
how about this, Doctor? The assistant prosecutor is to my left. Are you able to see him? Most importantly, I'm sure you'll be able to hear him, but can you see him at all?
I I cannot. I see the defense attorney and Ms. Miller is in the very edge of the frame. I cannot see anything further around clockwise for
Okay.
that.
I think it might be
So-
best, man, if you just move the podium a little bit instead of rotating the camera at this point. That's good. How about that? Is that,
There you go.
Okay.
all right, that's what we'll do then.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Could you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
My name is Daniel D. Herinko, spelled Hrinko.
And Dr. Herinko, where do you work and what do you do?
For the purposes of this evaluation, I am a forensic psychologist in independent practice, contracted with the Forensic Diagnostic Center for District 9 in Cambridge, Ohio, conducting evaluations for numerous counties in eastern and southeastern Ohio through the Department of Mental Health.
Now, what specific educational background do you have that allows you to hold that position?
I have a doctorate in clinical, and I have a doctor of professional psychology focusing on general clinical with the subspecialty of forensic work, awarded in 1995. I've been licensed as a psychologist in Ohio since 1995, and I have been conducting forensic evaluations for 31 years, with the last 20 years being exclusively a forensic practice throughout the state of Ohio. I maintain ongoing continuing education units of at least 9 hours every year to remain affiliated with a certified forensic center in the state of Ohio.
This time I'd ask that Dr. Herinko be qualified as an expert in forensic psychology.
No objection.
Okay, so noted.
Dr. Herinko, you know we're here on the case of Ruth Miller,
That's correct?
and you've had 2 occasions to interview her.
That is correct. I met with her in late 2025 regarding, in response to orders from this court regarding an opinion pertaining to competence to stand trial, and if my initial impression was that she was likely to be competent, to then evaluate her regarding her mental status at the time of the offense. I produced 2 reports separately to the court addressing those 2 issues.
And you know that based on your reports and the reports of others, that Ms. Miller was found not guilty by reason of insanity last Tuesday by this court.
I was made aware of that when I was contacted by the Forensic Center indicating that the court had made this finding and assigned me to conduct this follow-up evaluation regarding the requirements set forth in 2945.40.
And your interview for that follow-up evaluation was on March 10th?
That's correct. I conducted that interview by way of video conferencing, and it was relatively short because I had previous history with Ms. Miller of getting history background, which was all conducted in person in late 2025.
Now, having conducted several, I'm sure, forensic evaluations, including commitment evaluations, what are the factors that you were looking for statutorily to determine what your opinion would be about Ruth Miller's placement?
Well, for purposes of this evaluation, I'm focusing on the first question is there a mental illness that has a substantial probability of impacting her ability to function in society? And if my opinion is that there is a mental illness, the next is to determine what the least restrictive setting would be to provide appropriate treatment for that mental illness, while also taking into consideration the safety of the community, which is somewhat different than the civil commitment statutes that prioritize individual functioning over the safety of the community.
And to make this determination, you based this upon your own 2 evaluations, and did you look at any other materials?
I was provided with copies of 2 evaluations conducted by other experts regarding her mental status at the time of the offense that were submitted to the court as part of the findings of not guilty by reason of insanity. having access to that, it also provided me with reports from other records that I may not have been aware of, as well as the opinions of other knowledgeable experts regarding her current functioning, her functioning at the time, and whether or not she had a mental illness.
And those two reports that you reviewed would be the report of Dr. Susan Hatters Freeman. And was that a report from February 17th of 2026?
That was one of the reports that I reviewed.
And the other expert report you reviewed would be a report by Dr. Christopher Merritt, issued January 28th, 2026?
That is the other report I reviewed.
Based upon your review of those reports, the other materials that you mentioned that I believe are listed in your report from March 10th, and your evaluations, your individual impressions, did you determine whether Ruth Miller suffered from a mental illness?
There are clear indications that in recent months she has been experiencing debilitating symptoms often associated with mental illnesses. I typically do not go into the specifics of what a formal diagnosis may be, since a person's functioning is more the result of the impact of symptoms. In her case, she was specifically exhibiting delusional beliefs and following directions. There are also reports that suggest there were episodes of hallucinatory experiences, and that these debilitating symptoms of severe mental illness, clearly rooted in what could be considered a diagnosable mental illness for treatment purposes, severely impacted her ability to understand the nature of her actions. So the overwhelming evidence from the records as well as my observations is she does have a mental illness.
After making that determination, what factors did you consider in determining what would be a place for placement, the place of placement that is the least restrictive alternative available, consistent with public safety?
What I look for is the likelihood that this person is going to be able to be an active participant in managing their own mental illness. First and foremost is, are there indicators that medications, when appropriately prescribed, are helpful? I also look for indications of whether or not she is aware of the nature and extent of her mental illness. If she is aware and has insight regarding the nature of her actions when her mental illness is uncontrolled, the insight necessary to understand that she needs to be an active participant in managing her mental illness, and then looking at the supports that she needs from her surrounding environment to be able to maintain stability in that setting.
When you interviewed Ms. Miller on March 10th, was she medicated, and how was she doing?
She reported being medicated, and she appeared to be functioning well, and the medical records from the jail corroborated the fact that she appears to be functioning well within the jail environment with no behavior problems and no overt symptoms of mental illness that would be disruptive to her functioning in that environment.
With respect to insight into her mental illness, what did you discover?
I had concerns because her insight was very limited. Although she provided some basic factual evidence of understanding that she has a mental illness, she was unable to show an indication of being aware of what symptoms were associated with her mental illness, the impact these symptoms might have on her thinking and functioning. She was aware of the fact that she was taking medications, but had difficulty differentiating what the medications were for, and most importantly, she had difficulty providing a clear, logical, and rational explanation as to what the risks might be should she stop taking medications. So I would say her insight is very limited, and that she is responding to the external structure of the environment rather than being driven by an internal awareness or understanding about her mental illness that would allow her to be an active participant in corroborating with her treatment regime other than merely following directions.
When you talk about being an active participant in a treatment regime, would that include family support and a structure around her?
An active participant in their treatment regime is able to understand, in an abstract sense, the reason she's taking medications, the consequences of not taking medications, to be able to articulate the benefits of supportive environments and the services available, and see how all of that is leading towards the development of awareness, insight, and an independent ability to take responsibility for managing their mental illness with the supports. The environment provides the external structure, and at this time, her environment is very limited. It's safe, it's controlled, but there are no group therapies or individual therapies to help her develop these missing insights.
Thank you. Based on your evaluation of Ms. Miller, your review of the records, did you come to an opinion based on your training, education, and experience regarding the appropriate placement?
I did.
And what was that?
I am quite familiar with the state hospital system in Ohio, including Heartland Behavioral Health Care, and it's my understanding that they have extensive experience in providing evidence-based services to individuals, much as she is currently experiencing. They have individual therapy, they have group therapies, and they spend a lot of time helping individuals develop the necessary information, understanding, and insight into the nature of their mental illness, how it manifests itself, the importance of medications. They also work cooperatively with service providers in the community to help prepare for an eventual re-entry into the community, such as working with family members and community programs to prepare for that eventual supportive return.
Given the nature of the offense, did you have an opinion whether that should be a locked facility?
It should, because I would be concerned that with her limited insight, time away from a secure setting might put her in a position to make regrettable decisions about medications based upon her limited insight, which would then set the stage for a return of symptoms and the unpredictable, if not dangerous, behaviors associated with uncontrolled symptoms of mental illness.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Judge.
Attorney Freeman.
Thank you, Judge Nurse. Judge Nurse, I do have a question. I'm wondering if it'd be okay to speak from the table. And the reason I ask is, if I'm at the podium, I'm going to be right in front of the prosecutor, and he will not be able to see Dr. Herinko.
You're more than welcome to question him from right there.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Herinko, good morning. My name is Ian Freeman, and I represent Ms. Ruth Miller. If at any time I ask you any questions that are not clear, just please don't answer, ask me to repeat, okay?
I will do that.
All right, thank you. So, your determination when considering the best interest of Ruth and the community at large is to have Ruth Miller placed at Heartland Behavioral Health Care in Massillon, correct?
That is the facility that I believe is responsible for servicing individuals in her county who have this particular legal status.
Very good. And I'm going to just kind of go through a number of questions quickly that may just be an affirmation of what you just said, okay? All right. So, placing Ms. Miller at Heartland, I'll call it, you believe would benefit, she would benefit from further assessment there?
Yes, that is true.
Okay. And you believe that she would benefit at Heartland by making further adjustments in her treatment and also to her medications?
That is correct.
All right. And you would agree, just in general concept, that compliance with medication, compliance with the treatment regimen, and growth and understanding from that is aimed at eventually at reintegration into the community. Fair?
I believe that would be in her best interest, is to provide that path towards that eventual possibility.
Now, would you agree with me that prior to the tragic incident in this case, Ruth did try to get treatment on her own, trying to figure it out kind of on her own without great assistance?
It's my understanding that there was a meeting of friends and family where concerns were expressed and that she had agreed to seek services. And I also believe that there was some medications in the form of antidepressants from a family physician, not a psychiatric or mental health provider.
Okay. Did you look or study kind of that area of what medication she received, the efficacy of it, and how it may have impacted the incident in this case?
I'm a psychologist, not a physician or a pharmacologist, so I'm not really qualified in an expert sense to be able to evaluate the effects of medications, other than the fact that I reported what she was prescribed and I reported what she was taking and what she did. Whether or not there is a connection between that requires expertise beyond my training and license.
Very good. Thank you. And I think that you had stated during the direct examination, and you would continue to agree with me, that Ms. Miller has been fully compliant with all direction in all of the facilities that she's been in, whether it's been Marymount Hospital, the initial hospital here, or the Tuscarawas County Jail.
The records indicate that she has been fully compliant and never exhibited any oppositional or problematic behaviors.
All right. Now, when Ms. Miller was originally brought into the hospital on the date of this incident, would you agree that she was in a psychotic state based upon the records you've reviewed?
There were clear indications that she was exhibiting symptoms consistent with psychosis, such as delusional beliefs primarily, as well as possible hallucinatory experiences.
All right. And you've met with her and you've reviewed certain records in this case. Would it be fair, and I understand that your expertise is not with medications, but you've dealt with medicated people before, correct? You have a familiarity with it.
I do.
All right. And you would agree that her condition as of this date, where you and I are speaking now, her mental state has improved from where it was on the date that she made original entry into the system?
Well, I'm not aware about her functioning today, but when I saw her on the 10th, it was significantly improved from what was described in hospital records, and I would attribute that to a large extent to the fact that appropriate professionals have provided medications.
Very good, thank you. Now, you had talked about lack of awareness that Ruth may have. Do you know whether or not services have been provided, or more specifically, has anyone in the jail engaged in any discussion with Ruth Miller as to the medication she's on, what they are, their effects, and so forth, to give her that better insight that you were addressing during direct examination?
I saw no evidence in the records of any specific counseling focusing on that beyond what would be expected from the medical professional administering and providing the medications. There's no evidence of groups or other specified or targeted interactions to help with this.
And in your experience, you would expect that she would get that sort of attention at Heartland, fair?
I believe that is an essential part of their core program.
Question for you, Doctor. As it relates to cases involving not guilty by reason of insanity, if you could estimate for me, how many cases have you dealt with NGRI findings in murder cases, or serious felonies for that matter?
Probably somewhere between 100 and 150 in my career.
Okay. And would you consider, prior to the incident in this case, so this is the incident that brings us to the court, would you have considered Ruth to be untreated at that time?
There were no indications that she was receiving significant services because I believe she had taken the antidepressants for a period of time, but had stopped taking them several months prior to the instant offense. So I would consider untreated at the time of the instant offense.
And we talked about no incidents with Ruth Miller, but to date, would you agree that all indications point to Ruth being receptive to her medical and mental health care while in the Tuscarawas County Jail up until the point that you met with her?
I saw no evidence of her being resistive or questioning that.
Now, you did state during your direct examination that you did not make an official diagnosis, that's correct?
That is correct.
Would you agree that there was kind of a variety in diagnoses that were made between the mental health professionals, ranging from bipolar to schizophrenia?
Those are diagnoses of which I was aware, and I reported several of them in my report, because this cluster of symptoms falls under several diagnoses that are similar in many ways, yet different than others.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, your conclusion on page 8 of your report, so the final page, includes reference to a lengthy process, quote, lengthy process. My question to you is, until someone is in treatment and we are able to determine how they've taken to it, how they've received it, how well they have responded to it, one cannot really know how long the person should be in that level of treatment. Fair?
That is true, and that is why there is a process in place for the treatment staff, such as exists at Heartland, to continually update, reassess, and to provide feedback to the courts on a person's progress, so that when they and their experts make a determination that maximum benefits may have been reached, then the court can then reconsider the question regarding placement.
Very good. And so I guess just your choice of words as to lengthy was just more so, obviously we're not saying a day or two, we're talking about the time necessary to ensure that Ruth is safe to herself and others. Fair? And whatever that time may be.
Yeah, the intention of using that word was to indicate that this is not something that will be done in several days, several weeks, or not even likely in several months. My past experiences with doing evaluations with people transitioning out of hospitals indicate that the necessary steps will likely take, a minimum of a year, if not many, many more, depending upon her situation, her progress, and all the variables that the hospital can speak to.
Very good. Doctor, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Fred,
No
any
questions.
redirect?
No redirect.
Okay. And Doctor, I don't have any questions for you either. Your testimony is complete at this time. Again, if you wish to remain a part of the hearing, that is your decision, but your testimony is complete at this time.
Thank you much.
Oh, and Doctor, I wanted to also let you, if you're still there, I wanted to let you know that your ability to turn around the report in such a rapid time period is greatly appreciated. I know you're busy, but with the short time frame that we're given, we needed it, and you provided it. So thank you.
Judge.
Well, you hit me on a good day when I had a gap in my schedule, and the jail was very cooperative in getting this scheduled. So,
All right. Thanks again.
Judge, I think I'm blocking Attorney Freeman.
Okay.
So, is there any objection to me questioning from the table? As
No,
long as they
not
can
at
see
all.
me.
Yeah. And they don't have to see you. It helps, but if you want to slide down another seat, Fred, however you want to do it.
If it works, we'll have Dr. Merritt.
Okay. Dr. Merritt? Hi, Dr. Merritt?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. I'm not sure, okay, I'd put on it, but I can hear you. It sounds a little distant, maybe?
Yes.
How about now?
It's
A little better, yeah.
A little.
Yeah. We'll give it a shot, Doctor. I think the bottom line is that we can hear him, though. So you can hear him, can't you, Fred?
I can.
Yeah.
Can you see me, Dr. Merritt?
You are a bit off screen.
Okay.
That might be as best we can
Closest I
get,
get.
Fred, for you.
Okay, that's fine. I can see you, so I apologize. We're doing the best we can. Can you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Fred, before he starts stating anything, I need to swear him in.
Okay.
So one moment.
Good point, Judge.
Doctor, we're going to begin with the oath or affirmation. Dr. Merritt, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please indicate by stating either I swear or I affirm.
I affirm.
Thank you. Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Fred Scott is going to be starting off with the question.
Thank you, Judge. Before I start, Dr. Merritt did issue a 22-page report on January 28, 2026. I believe it's already been admitted, and he did have his opinion in that report regarding placement.
Agreed, Ian.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then also I provided his CV to the court, to Ms. Heil, and we've agreed to the admission of all the CVs.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Merritt.
Good morning.
Could you state your name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Christopher Paul Merritt, M-A-R-E-T-T.
And you are the Director of Forensic Psychiatry at the University of Cincinnati?
Yes, I am.
And what is your educational background that allows you to hold that position?
I completed undergraduate studies at the University of Notre Dame. I completed medical school and graduate studies at the Ohio State University. And I have trained at the University of Cincinnati for a psychiatry residency and forensic psychiatry fellowship.
Do you hold any licenses and board certifications?
Yes, I am licensed in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Oklahoma, and I have board certification in adult general psychiatry, forensic psychiatry, and addiction medicine.
Have you testified in courts throughout the state of Ohio?
Yes, I have.
And as an expert in forensic psychiatry?
Yes, I have.
And has that testimony been accepted?
Yes, it has.
We've moved that Dr. Merritt be declared an expert in forensic psychiatry.
Without objection.
Thank
It'll
you.
be noted then.
Dr. Merritt, you were hired by my former boss, Ryan Steyer, to conduct an evaluation of Ms. Ruth Miller,
Yes, I was.
and that was to determine her mental status at the time of the offense alleged in
Yes.
the indictment. And you did issue the report we discussed on January 28, 2026.
Yes, that is correct.
When you issued that report, did you have an occasion to meet Ms. Miller before that report?
I did. She met with me at my office in Cincinnati on January 7th, and we spoke for about 4.5 hours.
In addition to that meeting, did you review other items that you included in your report to help you with your assessment?
Yes, I reviewed materials related to her legal matters as I outlined in my report. I reviewed records from her emergency room visits and her hospitalization, and I reviewed jail treatment records.
Based on that review, do you have an opinion, based on your training, knowledge, and experience, if Ms. Miller suffers from a mental illness?
Yes, I do. It is my opinion that she suffers from bipolar disorder.
You also mentioned it's bipolar disorder with psychotic symptoms or attributes?
Yeah,
Could
that
you,
is correct.
can you,
At the time of
no, I was just going to ask if you could explain the reasons for your diagnosis or summarize them for the court.
Yes, at the time of the offense, I believe that she was in a psychotic episode. So that's the psychotic features, and I also believe she had severe mania. Anytime you have mania that leads to a psychiatric hospitalization, it's categorized as severe. And anytime you have delusions or hallucinations, that is the psychotic features part. But what she described to me was that for 1 to 2 weeks preceding the offenses, she had shortened and erratic sleep. There were some nights she had 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And she described in her own way what seemed to be a euphoric mood. For example, it was like getting married all over again. And so that's one of the hallmarks of bipolar disorder, is that there is a disturbance of the mood. Oftentimes there can be depression with that, and she described to me at times prior to that and after that having episodes of depression, but around the time of the offenses, a euphoric mood. She also had beliefs that I considered grandiose, beliefs that she could walk on water, suggestive of powers that she felt she had at the time that she wouldn't and didn't at the time that I interviewed her. She wouldn't ordinarily have that. She described having racing thoughts, and she described being distractible. So in my mind, I thought she met the criteria for bipolar disorder. Again, at the time, it was with mania and psychotic features.
Now, you've reviewed other reports, including reports issued by Dr. Herinko, and you saw his testimony earlier.
Yes.
He did not issue a diagnosis, and then there was a report issued by, 2 reports issued by Dr. Hatters Freeman. Have you reviewed her report?
I did. I reviewed those after I submitted my report.
And to some extent, your diagnoses differ. Could you explain why that may not be uncommon to the court?
Yes. Well, I would first highlight how they are similar. Neither of us disagree that Ms. Miller has had episodes of depression, and it's been severe and caused problems in her life. Neither of us, none of the 3 experts would disagree that she's had symptoms of psychosis. Again, meaning delusional beliefs about reality that aren't true, hallucinations, hearing voices. None of us would disagree on those things. I think the disagreement is whether there was the presence of mania, which again is a short 1 to 2 week period where you might not have sleep, you might have either elevation in your mood or irritability in your mood, and have the other symptoms that I described. We disagreed there, but at the essence, we both agreed that she had dysfunction related to her mental illness, depression, and psychotic features.
You heard Dr. Herinko's testimony regarding lack of insight into her own mental illness at this stage. Do you have an opinion based on your review of the records as to Ms. Miller's insight?
She had some insight. My opinion is that it was cursory. She's not had the education that I think she should have given the severity of her illness and what happened. But she had some insight. So, for example, when I interviewed her, she told me that I take olanzapine, a medication, and she said it was for bipolar disorder. She had some awareness that she had been diagnosed at the jail with bipolar disorder, and I believe her description of that, if I'm quoting it correctly, was that bipolar disorder can cause a lot of highs and lows. And so she has some awareness and some insight, but it's not to the extent that I would appreciate having to adequately mitigate the risks and to really understand her condition.
And Ms. Miller did have these insights actually that existed prior to this incident that brings us here, and she did seek treatment.
Yes, she did. And my awareness was both the same as Dr. Herinko, where her family and spiritual community members encouraged her to get treatment. She told me she had also spoken with a family member who had had her own treatment for depression, and I believe that was one of the things that prompted her to meet with her family doctor and be prescribed the antidepressant medication. So she had some awareness months before the offenses that she was having mental health issues.
On her own, with respect to treating her own mental health treatment, there's evidence that she went to a non-evidence-based treatment facility or had scheduled an appointment with that. Did you learn anything about that?
Yes, there were actually 2. My understanding is she met with a chiropractor who had prescribed her treatment, such as special diets and supplements, and it wasn't exactly clear what that was to address. There was some notion that perhaps there were toxins from her house. There was some notion that perhaps she had infections, but that was part of the initial sort of treatment that she sought out. She told me she had also had scheduled a quote brain scan with a facility called Gilead's Balm, and from what I've reviewed, the sort of treatments there would not be appropriate for the treatment of bipolar disorder.
Also, prior to this happening, she did receive warnings or an intervention of sorts from her faith community, yet her mental illness was so great, or her psychotic episode was so great, that psychotic episode overrode those warnings. Is that clear from your records?
Yes.
Based on your review of Dr. Herinko's report, Dr. Freeman's reports, and your own review, do you have an opinion regarding the placement Ms. Miller should have that provides adequate treatment, is the least, and is also the least restrictive to her with consideration of public safety?
Yes, it is my belief that the placement that would best provide that treatment and risk mitigation, as well as allow her the least restrictive settings, would be at Heartland Behavioral Health Care.
And why did you make that conclusion?
There were several factors I considered. Certainly the court needs to consider the public safety, and so I considered the magnitude of what's happened to lead us to this hearing. I also considered her need for psychoeducation, as I've described, having a greater understanding of bipolar disorder, what it is, how to manage it. I also believe that there is room to continue a diagnostic evaluation. I believe with a reasonable degree of certainty that she has bipolar disorder, but as you've laid out here, other experts may disagree. The hospital did not diagnose her with that, but the jail did. And so I think some time in the hospital to really get, really sort that out and have time to observe and meet with her in depth could help solidify that. I think there are other diagnostic things that may need to be performed as well. Both Dr. Freeman and I had noticed the potential hormonal changes that she's had with her obstetrical and gynecological history. She also has several family members that have a genetic disorder that can cause psychiatric issues, and my understanding is Ms. Miller's not had testing for that. So there are things from a diagnostic and evaluation standpoint that she may need done while in the hospital. It's also important in the hospital setting, and there are experts that working with the support system, but there's a need to really mobilize the community support system for her to prepare her for eventual conditional release. Part of that is working with her family members, part of that is within her spiritual and cultural community, and part of that is within the mental health system outside of the hospital. But that all needs to be coordinated and worked on in a safe setting, and I believe that can be done at Heartland.
Thank you. I did want to touch on the genetic symptom that you mentioned in your report, the MAS syndrome. Can you explain that for the court, and can you explain why you believe that a screening is necessary?
MAS syndrome is a genetic disorder. It's otherwise known as autosomal recessive spastic paraplegia 21, which can lead to a variety of neurological issues. Some of them are psychiatric in nature. It can lead to cognitive decline, dementia, and some of them are motor neurological, so paralysis, spasticity, other sorts of motor neurological symptoms. Ms. Miller reported to me that she had numerous siblings that had been afflicted by that, and had said that usually her siblings had that in their 20s. From what I've read and know about MAS syndrome, though, some people have the onset in their early 40s. So I'm not by any means saying that Ms. Miller has that. On the other hand, I do believe that it would be important for her to meet with an expert in that, perhaps a geneticist, who could determine whether she needed further testing given her family's history of that, and given the fact that sometimes that could precipitate the sorts of psychiatric issues that we are seeing with her.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Judge.
Attorney Freeman.
I don't have any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Merritt, that concludes your testimony. I also wanted just to remind you that you are welcome to remain listening in, observing to the extent you can. Further in the hearing, we'll be utilizing the witness stand here shortly, and I'm not sure how the camera will play out there, but you are welcome to remain.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Fred, just to confirm, the state did not intend to present any further experts, any other evidence, correct?
No, no.
All right. Then, at this time, I'll turn to the defense and Ian.
Your Honor, I would call to the stand for testimony Dr. Daniel Buffington.
Okay, Dr. Buffington.
Here.
Come on up.
Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, if I should be back.
That would be typically where the questioning would take place, but I guess the overriding rule is wherever you're comfortable, I'm fine with.
I'm fine back there.
Dr. Buffington, I will administer that oath. If you please raise your right hand. Dr. Buffington, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please indicate by stating either I swear or I affirm.
I affirm.
Thank you.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
If you would please state your full name, spell your last name for the record.
Yes, sir. Dr. Daniel E. Buffington, B-U-F-F-I-N-G-T-O-N.
Dr. Buffington, what is your professional title?
I'm a clinical pharmacologist and toxicologist.
And where are you located? Where do you practice?
I practice in Tampa, Florida. I'm on faculty with the University of South Florida's Colleges of Medicine and Pharmacy, and I have and manage a specialty practice called Clinical Pharmacology Services in Tampa.
Can you tell us what is a forensic pharmacologist?
So pharmacology is the study of medication, substances, natural substances, synthetic, even biologic agents, chemicals, hormones, proteins, substances that the body produces as therapeutic agents. But we also study and have to be fully acclimated to the adverse side effects, the toxicities, the complications, interactions. So forensic is the application or bringing those answers or explanations into the court.
And if you could, please tell me about your education that brought you to being a pharmacologist.
Yes, sir. I did my undergraduate studies at the University of South Florida in Tampa, a native of the Tampa Bay area, in biology and biochemistry. I did a Doctor of Pharmacy or PharmD degree at Mercer University in Atlanta, Georgia. Subsequent to that, I did postgraduate specialization in residency and fellowship in clinical pharmacology. And I've also completed an MBA with a healthcare focus.
And what sorts of certifications, licenses, so forth do you carry?
I'm licensed in both Florida and Georgia.
And your practice, obviously, you're here in Ohio, is not just limited to Florida and Georgia, but if you could tell the judge about your practice as far as reach is concerned.
Yes, sir. So I've done testimonies in federal, state, court, plaintiff, defense, criminal, civil, family court. Pharmacology finds its way into all those settings. And it's been all around the country and a few international locations as well.
Do you hold any degrees for any other types of specialties beyond pharmacology?
No, sir.
And have you been a lecturer or an author on subjects regarding forensic pharmacology?
Yes, sir. Since graduating in '87 and residency and fellowship by '89, and teaching, I've authored numerous textbook chapters, publications, research, and the research results.
And if you could estimate in the course of your career, how many cases that you've dealt with regarding pharmacology? More than 1,000, less than 1,000?
I don't have an exact count, but I'm sure it's been 40-some years between 500 and 1,000.
And you had provided a report previously dated February 24th, 2026, regarding the matter of State of Ohio versus Ruth Miller, correct?
Yes, sir, and I've got a copy with me.
And you had previously provided a curriculum vitae with that report, correct?
Yes, sir.
Alright. And everything that's stated in that CV is accurate
Yes, sir.
and up to date?
Getting ready to produce a next version, working on that right now.
Your Honor, I would ask that Dr. Buffington be recognized as an expert in the area of forensic pharmacology.
No objection to such recognition, no objection to his report or his CV.
Okay. It will be recognized then.
All right, so Dr. Buffington, if you could, please tell us how you became involved in this case.
Yes, sir. I was contacted by your office specifically to provide insight and background into Ms. Miller's case. From my perspective, looking at her past medications, past history leading to a period of treatment, I saw a period from about 2020 to 2025 where there was progressive development and presentation of mental health symptoms, ultimately receiving therapy from, as we've heard today, a family practice location. I want to say it was around March of 25 up to May of 25, different office interventions, different medication. A specific medication that was utilized then was sertraline or Zoloft, a very common introductory starting point for the treatment of basic depressive disorders. So I was looking at medications, but then also how those medications performed or complications or reactions, and then ultimately what her condition would have been at the time of the incident in August of 25, and then as additional insight, her response to more appropriate therapy following the incident.
Now, we'll get to your opinions and conclusions shortly, but you did make some, and you did include those in your report. My question to you is, what did you do in this case, and what did you review to allow you to formulate those opinions and conclusions?
Yes, sir. There was an abundance of personal information about Ms. Miller and her past. There were medical records. There were sheriff's reports. There was video of her appearance and presentation during questioning following the incident, and then additional medical records from corrections department as well.
Okay. And you were able to speak with Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir. I did an interview with her.
Okay. And can you please let the court know approximately when that was and how long that discussion was, or interview, I should say?
Yes, sir. I'm having to recall for the date.
It's in your report?
It is, yes, sir.
And do you recall approximately how long that interview was?
It was approximately an hour and a half.
Were you able to, based upon everything that you reviewed in this case, based upon your discussion with Ms. Miller, did you formulate any opinion related to a diagnosis of Ruth prior to the incident that is the subject of this case, State of Ohio versus Ruth Miller?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what was that?
That was that she had progressive and debilitating mental health symptoms that culminated in her seeking medical care, and that was the care provided in terms of the medication would have been an incorrect or an insufficient approach to treating those symptoms. We have additional insight on that by seeing how she's responded and having greater level of specialty evaluation subsequent to the incident. But that was insightful. The other issue around the use of sertraline as a single or monotherapy for her condition is it's actually known to potentially worsen the condition. So sometimes in general practice we see this. When a medication, psychiatric medication, so antidepressant, anti-anxiety, antipsychotic, when a medication that affects the brain's chemistry is added, it's about a 2 to 3 month window where the receptors in the brain, the chemicals called neurotransmitters, are disrupted. So it takes, many times we see, and we saw it in this case even, is there's a period of the patient having to adjust to, become acclimated, and encouraged to be compliant through those side effects before the therapeutic benefit appears or manifests. So that same principle of disrupting the receptors is true when you start a medication. When we do a dose change, we reset that clock of 2 to 3 months. And when you discontinue a medication, it takes up to 2 to 3 months for the brain to reacclimate. So in this case, if you've taken away, so somewhere in late May, June, there was termination. There was a couple of attempts at dose adjusting the sertraline, and then it was discontinued due to complications or side effects or her condition at the time. That is almost textbook to the time frame when this incident occurred. So the selection, the handling of that first medication actually set up the conditions for something like this, and we see this in clinical practice routinely. So it was that incident where the symptoms, her mental health symptoms, had progressed and graduated to a point of greater psychotic symptoms and the mania. It was not until after the incident, when she was in a more formal care setting, we heard that she was in the hospital, we heard that she was also treated more regularly in a controlled setting with corrections, medical, that a more appropriate regimen, more consistent for treating what she has in terms of mental health presentation. That was Zyprexa and Buspar. Those are two medications that work well together and work good for her chief mental health complaints. So what we see pharmacologically is the early medication approach may have worsened the condition. Timing-wise, it's consistent with what we saw. But then post-incident, she's in a better situation in terms of medications. We heard this morning about the understanding what each medication does, understanding the mental health symptoms and condition. We frequently refer to that as mental literacy, or medical literacy, or medication literacy. Does the patient actually understand what they're taking things for and how to take them properly? And in this case, what would happen if you independently discontinued? And I do think that that's an important part of this case and the opinion, is that that's a critical role for Ms. Miller.
Thank you. So you're talking about clinical roles and so forth, and I'd like to know your opinion on whether or not there was a proper interpretation of the clinical picture leading up to, if you could tell the court what that is, and then talk about whether it was proper prior to the incident. If not, why?
So it was clearly not proper. As I mentioned before, attempting to use a product like Zoloft, which is in a category called an SSRI, a serotonin receptor uptake inhibitor. That is a known potential trigger because it's not helping to control all of the areas, all of the chemicals and receptors in the brain needed for the type of condition, the bipolar disorder. As we just heard with Dr. Mammer, it's very important is that bipolar can represent or present itself with very low, deep phases of depression or very accelerated, disorganized thought of mania. In both those cases, it's important before making a medication selection to really properly work that patient up to look for those symptoms. And in fact, between the time that the Zoloft was discontinued and the time of the incident, it appears that those symptoms actually worsened and became more obvious. So there was a lack of proper mental health diagnosis and treatment prior to the incident.
And would that also, the proper picture in what you were just discussing now, if the diagnosis were schizophrenia accompanied by some other conditions, what was the picture then?
It does appear to be present as the symptoms we would look for to be hallmark for that would be the disorganized thought, the hallucinations, both auditory and visual. Those are things more considered detachment from reality, and misperceptions of your surroundings would be more consistent with psychosis or schizophrenia.
So now I preface this question with a statement, and I think you'll agree with me that no one knows for sure. But my question is, had Ruth been receiving different medication, different treatment regimen, medication regimen, that would have better fit her mental health condition prior to this incident, would that have affected the likelihood of what occurred, or even the likelihood of it occurring at Atwood Lake?
Yes, I would couch that as more likely than not, we would not be here for this issue today.
Right, now, after Ms. Miller was arrested, she was treated with various medications, and you had just named 2 medications that you said seem to be working certainly better at this point. Were there other medications that were given her early on into her custody?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall what those were and how she responded to those?
Not as well. I don't have the list in front of me of what each sequence, but I would concur that the combination of Zyprexa and Buspar are certainly more appropriate given their applications and where in the brain that they affect. But that's not the whole picture, is that seeing the clinical improvement on this combination, there could be additional benefits from either dose modification or adding or modifying one of those with another medication. That comes with ongoing therapy and the obvious benefit of counseling and working through those disorders.
Very good. Do you have an opinion now as to what medications Ruth should be taking, or dosages may be different from what she's doing?
That would come from sequential visits and being able to see the individual from appointment to appointment. But clearly, compared to both what I saw in other experts' reports with what I also was able to ascertain during the clinical interview, that she is in a much better place now than prior to the incident, but highly encourage the enhanced therapy that would accompany additional care.
And Dr. Buffington, what would be your recommendation for kind of the ideal future care and pharmacological management?
I do think that a residential scenario like we heard discussed in terms of a state facility would be optimal. I don't think there's an ideal prediction. I think Dr. Herinko's statement of I don't think we're talking about weeks to months, because what you want to see is the increase in that patient's literacy or understanding of their condition, of support networks, of compliance with medication as a critical part of that. But even if dose modifications, changing to a different medication are necessary, I would think that you're at least looking at a year, but there's no way to predict. The ultimate depends on those who are treating her and see her level of improvement with the combination of medication and therapy.
Very good. And when you say a year before what? Because you're not suggesting that there's treatment, then everything's solved, and there's nothing following that. What are you making reference to?
I'm making reference to both the time it would take to continue to evaluate if there's need for modifications. Once you have reached the point of stability, then there's time to see how that is doing from assessment to assessment. So I think it's assuring stability and her level of literacy on both the medications and her condition.
Okay. Now, you heard the testimony of the recommendations regarding Heartland Behavioral Health Care.
Yes, sir.
Right, very good. And this is just assuming all it is. Okay, that's all it is. May I approach the witness, John?
Okay. This is just the way, there's 2. Oh, all right. There you go.
The same report you
No, it is not.
Okay.
This is actually not a report. This is nothing more than just a printout for Heartland. And I just wanted to ask him a question. Handing you defense exhibit C, if you would just take a quick look at that.
Yes, sir.
And I'd ask you to look at the services provided by Heartland Behavioral.
Yes, sir.
So you heard the testimony, the recommendations that would be placed at Heartland. And what I've handed you is the printout from Heartland as to the services that they provide there. Are those the sorts of services that you feel would best benefit Ruth Miller?
Yes, sir. And just to elaborate is that there's a lot of mental health care takes place in primary care offices, but it's for very basic or introductory issues. The scope of what I'm seeing here would define specialty psychiatric care, and yes, sir, it would be an appropriate facility.
So, assuming that the community remains remain safe in that sort of setting. Do you feel that a more restrictive setting is necessary than that which you heard today? Heartland Behavioral.
No, sir. It does appear to provide an array of specialty psychiatric services which can get to each of those issues adequately that we discussed.
And so would your recommendation, with a reasonable degree of certainty, be that she should be placed at Heartland Behavioral?
Yes, sir. It would appear appropriate.
Now, I'm going to ask a question that comes a little bit down the road, but while I have you here from Florida, if the court would allow, just have two questions on the issue of this. How can we ensure compliance with medications, both in that sort of setting and then once a lesser restrictive setting is put into play?
Okay, so very good question, because this does come up in clinical practice routinely. Not always emanating from the court, but sometimes in clinical scenarios as well. There's a combination of things. One is there's devices and instruments that we can give to patients that documents times of administrations. And you say, well, the patient could open the cap on a bottle and put the cap back on. There's some that document that with a photo and with a timestamp that's documenting that. That's one method. So there's delivery or packaging instruments that can do that. There's another level, and that's what I would refer to as therapeutic drug monitoring. So in our practice and many others around the country, we have to help to make sure, whether it's for psychiatric care or pain management or addiction therapy, that individuals are being compliant, both with taking and in some cases not taking other substances. So there's blood levels can be obtained to look for. So if a patient says, oh, I take that every day, and it's not in their system, we know otherwise. The other issue is the advent in the last probably 10 years has been with, that helps tremendously with this, and that is the injectable long-acting medications, which means a patient can come to an office, have it administered by a practitioner, and then that medication is in their system with a sustained release system for a period of time. So there's a variety of ways for the court, should the court have an interest in that, to have a consultation with a practice like ours that looks at these options, continues to monitor in concert with, or provides guidance on different test or lab test or medication formulations that can help with that.
Thank you, Dr. Buffington. My last question for you is, having been involved with cases similar to this, in NGRI cases, I say this, my question is, assuming that someone is compliant with their medications, they've responded well to the mental health treatment regimen and so forth, how quickly can someone like Ruth be treated before you would suggest that a less restrictive setting be considered?
Could be months to a year, but I would just say that that's something left up to the practitioners who are evaluating the individual sequentially. But months to a year would be an optimal.
Very good. I have nothing further.
No questions, Judge.
All right. Doctor, you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ian, your next witness.
Yeah, thank you. Your Honor, I call Dr. Susan Hadders Freeman.
Okay. Doctor, you may come up. With that oath or affirmation. Doctor, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please indicate by stating either I swear or I affirm.
I affirm.
Okay.
Thank you. Doctor, how do you prefer to be addressed? Dr. Hadders Freeman, Dr. Hadders, or Dr. Freeman?
Dr. Hadders Freeman or Dr. Freeman is fine.
Dr. Hadders Freeman. And I think, importantly, one question we do have to get out of the way is, you would agree with me that we are not related and we've never met before this case.
Absolutely.
Dr. Haddish Freeman, if you would, please state what your professional title is.
Sure. So I'm a medical doctor, a physician, and I specialize in forensic psychiatry and reproductive psychiatry. As far as my position, at Case Western Reserve University, I serve as the Philip Resnick Professor of Forensic Psychiatry. I'm also a professor in general psychiatry there, in reproductive biology, in pediatrics, and at the law school there as well. I also am director of the Division of Forensic Psychiatry at University Hospitals of Cleveland. As part of that work, I also do evaluations at North Coast Behavioral Healthcare, which is a forensic hospital in the Cleveland area. And then I also work at the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas Court Psychiatric Clinic doing evaluations there.
Very good. And I appreciate you offering all of that because I'm going to ask you just very general questions. So they are calling for kind of an explanation that fully captures your experience, okay?
Sure.
If you could tell us, please, about your training that has brought you to your degree and level of profession.
Sure. So first, to become a physician, you attend college. I studied, I majored in chemistry in college. Then I went to medical school at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. Graduated from there in 1999. Did 4 years of psychiatry residency training where you're working in the hospital under other physicians learning psychiatry at University Hospitals of Cleveland, Case Western. Then I did a fellowship in reproductive psychiatry, women's mental health research after that, and then after that a forensic psychiatry fellowship at University Hospitals of Cleveland, Case Western as well.
And you've testified before?
Yes.
Okay. And you've testified from the position of or in the capacity of what?
As an expert witness?
Is concerned.
You mean
Some
in
type of specialty?
Oh, as a forensic psychiatrist expert, yes.
Okay. Can you approximate for us how many times you've testified as a forensic psychiatrist?
Dozens.
And just kind of tell the court about your experience as a forensic psychiatrist. You've kind of talked about your training and so forth, but just as if you were going down your CV, I'm basically just asking you to address it. So
okay, sure.
There's quite a bit there, and if I ask all the questions, we'll be here till late this afternoon.
Okay. So I've worked in different capacities in forensic psychiatry, but always with some reproductive psychiatry there as well. So a lot of what I've done is work with women, pregnant or postpartum women, and women and offending. I've worked for some years, in addition to being at Case Western, at North Coast Behavioral Healthcare, running a women's unit, running psychiatric treatment unit for women and for a period of time for men as well. I have also worked in community mental health in the Cleveland area with pregnant and postpartum women. My family moved overseas to New Zealand for about 7 years, where I also worked in forensic psychiatry and working with women. While there, I ran a women's unit for a while. I worked at the women's correctional facility, seeing and evaluating and treating women and writing forensic reports. I also worked during that time at the University of Auckland, where I did teaching and research as well. And also have continued to work at the Court Psychiatric Clinic in Cuyahoga County, doing evaluations of people who are charged with crimes for competency to stand trial, for sanity at the time of the act, for things similar to what we're here for today about their need for treatment after being found insane. And I also do research and teaching through my roles at Case Western. So I teach a course at the law school. I teach the psychiatry trainees and the forensic psychiatry trainees, and do some research. So I've done research over the course of years of mothers who have killed their children, as well as other types of research in our field. And I also do a lot of writing and teaching locally, nationally, internationally about that topic.
Thank you. And that topic is referred to as filicide?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could just give us a basic definition of filicide, please.
Sure. So filicide is when either parent kills their child or children. Usually it's children under age 18 who are still living at home who are killed.
And on the specific issue of filicide, you have not only taught, but you've lectured and you've written extensively on that.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that Dr. Freeman be acknowledged as an expert in the field of forensic psychiatry.
No objection.
So noted then.
How did you become involved in this case, Doctor?
Your office had contacted me.
And you're here today to determine whether Ruth has a mental illness which should be subject to court monitoring placement, is what we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
And you did not find that there was any intellectual disability, did you?
No.
If you could, please just let us know, discuss what you looked at to form any ultimate conclusions and opinions that we'll be talking about throughout this hearing here today.
Sure. So I met with Ms. Miller in November, in December, and in February for about 6.5 hours altogether. I also conducted interviews with various family members who had known her and who were able to give information about her functioning and mental health before the offending. Also, the legal information and the information from the police I reviewed, and I reviewed records from Merritt Hospital, from the Tuscarawas Jail, from Union Hospital, as well as the other reports in the case.
Okay. Now, you just made reference to the family, and you spoke to the family. Can you describe for the court your opinion of Ruth's level of family support at the current date?
Yes.
What is the time of your interview?
Sure. So I spoke with her sister, and I spoke with her father-in-law and her mother-in-law, and they were all very supportive of her, which, considering the losses that they had in their family, both of her son and her husband, seemed like very strong family support, even in the face of those losses.
Now, you spoke to Ruth while she was at the Tuscarawas County Jail.
Correct.
And just the two of you speaking in a small room?
So I spoke with Ruth at the jail in a small room. Also present was a forensic psychiatry fellow in training with me for that. Then I also, the second time I spoke with her on Zoom, and the third time the trainee and I spoke with her on Zoom. But the bulk of it was, yes, in a small room at the Tuscarawas County Jail.
Okay. And was Ruth engaged in the discussion with you and cooperative during the discussions with you?
Throughout, yes.
Now, you had set forth, you had authored a report on February 17th of this year, and in there you talked about Ruth's medical history.
Yes.
Correct? And what was, if you could talk about for a moment, the medical history that you captured in your report that you feel is relevant to placement hearing today?
Sure. As far as medical history, she had, around the time that she was pregnant with her son Vincent, she had experienced some physical symptoms, and she had to have a gynecological surgery, and she also had been noted to report in some medical records that since around that time of the surgery, 2022, she wasn't feeling like herself. So that's one piece of things. Another piece of the stresses that is reflected in her medical history was the concern about mold in the home, and so she had mold, like MOLD. She had been having some physical symptoms, but as well some symptoms which could be mental health related, such as about sleeping, etc., which we've seen throughout her getting more mental health symptoms later. The sleep has consistently been a concern and an issue, and we can see lack of sleep can be a symptom of depression. It can also be like a warning sign that other mental health struggles like psychosis are going to get worse. So she had these physical symptoms, some of which may have been psychological around that time as well, related to the mold. This was something that, when I talked with her family, was a huge issue in their life, and the house needed to be taken down. She needed to move her family of 6 into various different locations while the house was being taken care of, while a new house was being put up, and this was a big stressor as well. So that's in the medical history, but it's also in the stressors and thinking about mental health. And then, as Dr. Merritt mentioned, also she had this strong family history of this MAST syndrome, which she had also told me she hadn't been tested for herself.
Thank you. Were you able to obviously discuss the incident at Atwood Lake with Ruth Miller to help formulate your opinions?
Yes.
Were you able to make a determination as to what her psychiatric state was or what her mental state was at the time of the tragic incident?
Yes.
And what was that and why?
Sure. So it's my opinion that she had both a psychotic disorder as well as mood symptoms. So psychosis is being out of touch with reality, and that includes, for example, hallucinations, hearing things that aren't there, sometimes seeing things that aren't there can be symptoms. Delusions are a symptom of psychosis. Delusions are fixed, false beliefs that are not consistent with the beliefs of one's culture. And there are a whole host of other symptoms we can see with psychosis as well. Ruth Miller at the time was truly believing that she was getting special messages from God about tasks that she needed to do to prove her devotion. She thought that there were miracles going on. She thought that the number 40 was important, and it had been important in the Bible, but she took a special meaning that it was her 40th birthday at the time of the alleged offending and leading up to it. She believed that the world was going to end in a delusional way, that she had been given these special tasks to do by God, like walking on water, and she actually tried to do that, believing that she was meant to by God. And then that the actual offending itself, there was the belief that these were tasks that God had told her to do, from keeping her foot on the pedal of the golf cart, driving it into the water. She believed that God told her not to take her foot off that pedal and wanted her to do that. She believed that all of these things were because of God in a delusional way. And hallucinations, the special messages that she was getting. Now, there was a notation in the hospital records after where she told a nurse that she had been hearing things for a year. So, and we also know that Ruth and her family were very private people. She had been trying to get help for a long period of time, but we don't know exactly when these symptoms all exactly started. But that was one indication that things had been going on for some time as well. The indication in a Holmes family medical record indicated that she hadn't felt like herself since 2022. So these psychotic symptoms going on for a period of time, and then the depressive symptoms that we know about going on for a long period of time. And so the diagnoses then that I made were other specified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder, which is a very long name, but it is in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM of psychiatry, how this is best called, in my opinion, because we've seen this psychosis and psychotic symptoms there could be, as Dr. Merritt discussed, some underlying genetic disease that we don't know about, but what we're seeing as far as the symptoms in front of us are these psychotic symptoms overlaid on this history of depression which she had.
Thank you. Now, you had made reference to the fact that, and you had heard Dr. Buffington talk about Ruth trying to get care before the incident in this case. Were you able to discuss that and address that with Ruth?
Yes, she was someone who she recognized that there was something going on. She didn't have the words or the understanding to know exactly what was going on, but she was trying to get help. So she had gone to the family medicine doctor and gotten medication, which she had some problems with. That was one thing she had done. She had gone to the chiropractor and the holistic treatment folks to try and get some help for it as well. She had also tried to arrange for this brain scan. This is what she called it. There's not a clear indication of what this actually would mean, but she was trying. She said she was on a waiting list for the month after the offending in order to get this scan, which she hoped would answer what was going on and get her treatment. In addition to those things, she had sought a therapist, a counselor, but she had gone for an appointment and the person knew her family. And so she felt uncomfortable with that and didn't return, which is completely understandable. But she said during that session, the person said that they knew her father and that felt uncomfortable for mental health treatment.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Now, how has the care for Ruth that she's received post-incident differed from that which was offered her prior to the incident, that which you just talked about?
Sure. So I think as we heard a little bit earlier, previously the family medicine doctor, based on what their understanding of the situation was, had prescribed the antidepressant Zoloft, which she had taken for a brief period of time, and which would not treat the diagnosis that whether one thinks it's bipolar disorder or whether one thinks it's a schizophrenia spectrum disorder, that would not be the treatment that she would receive afterwards, because that would not be the treatment for that diagnosis. So afterwards, she went to Union Hospital, and then she went to Marymount Hospital, and then in the Tuscarawas County Jail. So when she went to Union Hospital, they evaluated her. They gave her medications to help calm the agitation that she was having, and they also gave her an antipsychotic medication, Risperdal, which is certainly in the class of medication that's indicated when someone has a psychotic disorder. So she got that at Union Hospital. Then when she went to Marymount Hospital, they were more focused on treating her sleep. And then when she came to the Tuscarawas County Jail, they did some screening tests, and she met with a staff member on occasion, and they started Zyprexa, which is an antipsychotic medication, as well as the Buspar, which helps with anxiety. Of those, the Zyprexa is the important one because it's the antipsychotic medication which is treating the psychotic disorder which she has.
Thank you. We know that Ruth is housed in the Tuscarawas County Jail. We know that she's being treated well in the county jail. With that said, is she receiving, in your estimate as a professional in forensic psychiatry, is she receiving the best care that she can for her current conditions?
So no, jails don't have the ability to have the multidisciplinary treatment team like you would have in a forensic hospital. So she's getting medication, and she's met with someone on some occasions, but that's not everything that we would want someone to have in their recovery for the future.
And what's your diagnostic impression of Ruth at this present time?
So yes, she still has a psychotic disorder as well as the mood disorder. So it's this other specified schizophrenia spectrum disorder as well as the major depression which she has.
Okay, Dr. Haddish, Freeman, with the proper care, including medication, is Ruth's condition maintainable?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about the importance of medications? You have to have both components. You can't just have the therapy without the medication without the therapy. Talk about the importance of having both in Ruth's case.
Sure. Well, even stepping back a little, you want to be certain about, is there any medical cause or anything else we should be treating? And so that's where, like when Dr. Merritt was mentioning testing for, could this be related to the mast cell issues? So once you have an appropriate workup and diagnosis, then yes, you want this multidisciplinary treatment. So the psychiatrist figuring out the medication. She's been started on the Zyprexa. She has been at the same dose throughout the jail. It has certainly helped from where she was before. But is it the right dose? Does she need an adjusting of the dose? Is it the best antipsychotic medication for her condition? Is it something where you want to be on a long-acting injectable that you know someone's got in their system because you know that the doctor or nurse gave them the injection? Those are things that can be adjusted and should be looked at for optimal treatment and optimal response. So as well as that piece of it, it's the multidisciplinary treatment, right? So for example, I do evaluations for when someone's appropriate to be released on conditional release into the community. And when some of the things that we are looking at then, the treatments that we want them to have gotten in the hospital are things aimed at their understanding, their insight, like we were hearing about this morning already as well. So once the diagnosis has been well established, giving her the psychiatric education so that she has the language to understand what the symptoms are, what the diagnosis is, and what her early warning signs are that she's slipping into having mental health symptoms again, so that she can tell the doctor and the treatment team so that her medications can be adjusted. That's one piece of it. Another piece of it is psychotherapy, working with a psychologist. She has lost her husband, she has lost her son, and she was very mentally unwell at the time of that. And that's all stuff that should be worked through for mental health as well. So it's this different. So on the one side, you're trying to get rid of the symptoms with the medication. On the other side, you're trying to work on understanding and healing and getting better insight. And she's been doing everything that she's been asked to do, right? She's been taking the medication. She answers all the questions of the evaluators, but she hasn't yet had that opportunity for the psychotherapy, for further understanding about her mental illness, because it hasn't been something that she's had access to yet.
So, if you could put pen to paper and kind of write out the perfect beginning for treatment of Ruth Miller. She walks out of this courtroom and enters into X treatment. What does that look like?
So, a secure forensic hospital, Heartland, which is for this area of Ohio. And upon getting there, meeting with her psychiatrist, her psychologist, social workers, nursing, other members of the treatment team who do therapy groups, etc. Getting further evaluated in the hospital, they're observing 24/7, right? So I've seen her for 6.5 hours, give or take, but they would be observing with multiple professionals 24/7, noticing, is she still having symptoms? And as I said before, she's a private person, and sometimes with people like that, when they get in the hospital, sometimes the close observation, you might see symptoms that they might not even notice in themselves. So that's one piece. And then getting further evaluation about the specific diagnosis, if there could be any underlying medical condition contributing to it, then getting the medications optimized. It occasionally occurs that the first dose of the first medicine that someone tries is the thing that works, but a lot of times there need to be dose adjustments and medication changes. So that all getting assessed. Meanwhile, in the hospital, there's group therapies going on every day, meeting with a psychologist, getting that understanding and insight and literacy about her mental health condition. And I think something that bears remembering, I said she's been following through on everything that she's been asked to do since the offending, but also she comes to this with an 8th grade education, like people in her community have, and so it needs a lot of understanding about mental health conditions that many people with a high school diploma don't have unless they've had someone in their family with a mental illness. So really a lot of learning about this and recognition of it in herself, and then the ability to think about prevention. Now, while she is out of facility, they should be encouraging further interaction with family and reintegration with family. As I said, her parents-in-law and her sister were very supportive when I spoke to them. They'll need education about her mental health condition as well, so that when the work is being done about reintegrating into the family, into the community, so that there's good understanding there. A strong family support can be a huge preventative factor in the future. And the family tried to help before, and the religious leaders tried to help before, but there just wasn't full understanding back then about the condition and about the symptoms, the psychosis and the mood symptoms that she was having. Whereas in the future there would be if they're provided education about it.
If Ruth were subjected to, let's say, a more restrictive setting than that of Heartland, could that actually work to her detriment under these circumstances?
Correct. I mean, we're always trying to think about what's the least restrictive setting for her safety and healing and the community's safety, and there doesn't seem to be any indication for a more secure setting.
And what you testified to here today, do you believe that placement at Heartland Healthcare would best ensure that Ruth will be treated most effectively, that Ruth will be best led to conformity with law, and that the community will be best protected to a reasonable degree of certainty in forensic psychiatry?
Yes, I do.
Is there anything I did not ask you that you think is relevant that the judge should know when making a determination as to placement?
I think these are the important things that at some place like, well, at Heartland itself, she can get the medication treatment, and then as well the therapy that she needs.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Freeman.
Thank you.
No questions, Judge.
Okay. Doctor, that means there are no further questions for you, and you may step down.
Thank you.
Your Honor, on behalf of Ms. Miller, we will rest subject to the admission of just simple defense exhibit C and the joint exhibits that were placed by prosecutor. Thank you.
Okay. Just make sure that I have copies. There have been copies supplied to me before the hearing. Are there marked exhibits as far as a joint exhibit that you would want me to use? Otherwise, I will. If they're already labeled, I would use those. If not, I will utilize what I have.
These are labeled. I guess we should just make sure that you do have. I have labeled as defense exhibit A the report from Dr. Freeman. I believe you have that.
Have that.
Very good. Then I have as marked as defense exhibit B the report from dated February 24th, 2026 from Dr. Buffington, Clinical Pharmacology Services. We have that. And then we received our C today. And then I know that the joint from our prosecutor related to Dr. Herinko and Dr. Merritt were provided today, and that was joint.
Well, you you've already had the Dr. Merritt one,
Correct.
January
I'm sorry.
28th, and you do have Dr. Herinko's, which is March 10th.
Okay, that's
And
what I
if you
had.
want to mark those as joint exhibits, I have no objection. And you should have Dr. Merritt's CV as well.
That's correct. That has been provided. So with that then, the report from Forensic Diagnostic Center of District 9 that is from Dr. Herinko, that is from an evaluation of March the 10th of 2026. The report is also March the 10th of 2026, will be admitted. Defendants exhibits A, B, and C, A being the report from February the 17th from Dr. Hatters Freeman will be admitted. The February 24th, 2026 report from Dr. Daniel Buffington will be admitted, as well as today's Exhibit C, which essentially is a overview of the Ohio Department of Behavioral Health report involving Heartland Behavioral. That will all be admitted. I'm going to turn one last time to the state. Fred, is there any form of closing summation that you intended to preside or to present regarding this matter, if you wish?
Judge, it's just that you've heard from 4 separate experts today. They all agree that Ms. Miller suffers from a mental illness. I think Dr. Buffington summed it up best. The events of August 25th were the result of years-long untreated severe mental illness. Her history from 2022 through 2025 was a period of escalating symptoms that were exacerbated by stressors, including grief, medical issues, housing instability. All the experts agree that there's much work to be done with respect to insight and education, with respect to that mental illness, and all agree that for the protection of the community and as the least restrictive setting, that Heartland Behavioral Health Care is the least restrictive setting, and the state would ask you to follow their recommendations.
Thank you. Ian, if you wish.
Thank you. Very briefly, I had asked Dr. Buffington about the likelihood of whether or not Ruth would have been involved in that tragic day at Atwood Lake, and he said it would have been unlikely had she been receiving the care and medication and so forth that we trust that she will now get, and he believed that we wouldn't be here but for the mental illness that Ruth struggled with and that Ruth tried her best to get help with. Unfortunately, she was unable to get that despite her best efforts, and we're here for really something that is the biggest nightmare, most tragic thing one could think of. It's an unbelievable situation. So I'm very pleased that all of the experts have agreed that what is in Ruth's best interest, what will give her the best care while also protecting the community, is available, and that they all feel it's available at Heartland Behavioral Health Care. So you can't really, it's kind of beyond question at this point when you have 4 top experts all saying the same thing after looking into Ruth's history and speaking with her and based upon their best experience. So I also join the state in asking the court to adopt the recommendations that you heard here today.
Thank you. Ruth, I have reviewed the exhibits that are here. I reviewed all of them, other than the report from Heartland, which I'm already familiar with, Heartland Behavioral Health Care. And from those reports, from the testimony that has been presented here today, I think certain things are clear. I think that the evidence has been established, and I would find by clear and convincing evidence that Ruth Miller is a person with a mental illness. There may be some differences of opinion as to what that specific mental illness is, but the statute does not require that there be a unanimous decision as to what that specific illness is. It's clear from everyone who has testified here that you do suffer from a mental illness. I'm then to consider the proper placement for you. And in this case, considering the need to consider the least restrictive setting, as well as keeping in mind public safety, that is also an important consideration here. It is my opinion that committing you into the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, specifically to the Heartland Behavioral Health Care Center, is the appropriate placement here that will do really all that's expected, and that is to provide you that medical and mental health component that is needed, as well as to provide security to the community. It is a secured hospital from which individuals cannot just come and go as they please. It is a facility for which you will be confined there. I am going to make that order then from the court that is the least restrictive, proper placement for you going forward. A couple of things to keep in mind. One, the Heartland Behavioral Health Care Center is a facility that treats different types of individuals, different situations come up. Bottom line is they have a waiting list to go into that facility. I'm uncertain as to how quickly you will be able to be moved into that facility. I am going to order that you're held in the jail until that bed is available, but we will contact them today to make sure that that is expedited. Second thing is, Ruth, this will not be the last time that you're here. There are review hearings that I know was suggested by others because it makes sense to have review hearings. They're designated by statute in Ohio, and there will be a review hearing in approximately 6 months, and after that every 2 years. Going forward, as to what will happen at those review hearings, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know until we have any type of feedback from those at the hospital. Fred, from the state of Ohio's standpoint, anything further?
Judge, we had talked to the victims, the victim representative of the family and the children, and they just simply wanted Ms. Miller to know that her children are doing well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ian, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right. Then, Ms. Miller, I'm going to have you remanded back to the jail, but I certainly recognize the state of the where we find ourselves right now in this case, and I assure you that I will be contacting them to see that they will expedite your placement there as soon as possible. If nothing further, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.